I woke up to the sharp, unmistakable reek of sulfur, the kind that makes you wonder if something had crawled into your walls and rotted away. At first, I figured it might be my neighbor's dog getting into some foul mess again, but as I sat up and wiped the grogginess from my eyes, I realized this stench was too intense. It wasn't just lingering, it was pouring in from outside. My gut twisted. Something was seriously off. I threw on a shirt, stepped onto my back porch, and nearly choked. My pool, my pristine, sparkling backyard retreat, was now a churning pit of filth. Yellow clumps floated on the surface, cracked shells bobbed around, and a slimy, rancid film coated everything. The smell slammed into me like a punch, a nauseating blend of spoiled garbage and sewer water. I staggered back, covering my nose, my brain scrambling to process this nightmare. Who would do this? Then it hit me, Linda. Linda was the neighborhood's self-proclaimed overlord, ruling the HOA with an iron grip and a notebook stuffed with petty infractions. She was the type to measure your lawn with a ruler and slap you with a warning for hanging unapproved Christmas lights. She had this eerie knack for popping up the second you bent one of her absurd rules, like a suburban dictator always watching. And I'd been on her hit list since I moved in. It started with little things, a snarky comment about my trash can being an inch off center, a passive-aggressive note about my porch light being too bright for the community vibe. Then came the wild claims. My grass was too lush, my dog's bark was too perky. My mailbox wasn't the precise shade of taupe she'd decreed. I'd brushed it off as her usual control freak nonsense, but this was a declaration of war. As I stood there, staring at the wreckage of my pool, my phone buzzed. "Man, open the door," came Ryan's voice through the speaker. I trudged through the house and swung the front door open. Ryan, my best friend since college, stood there with his typical crooked grin until the smell hit him. His face twisted in disgust. "What the?" He stepped back, plugging his nose. "Dude, did you start a toxic waste dump in your backyard?" I sighed, rubbing my forehead. "Guess who?" Ryan's eyes widened. "No. No way. Linda. Who else?" I waved him toward the backyard, where the stinking disaster waited. He took one look and burst out laughing. "This woman's lost it," he said, gasping for air. "Did she really wake up and think, you know what? I'm gonna ruin Mark's pool today?" I clenched my jaw. I don't know what her deal is, but she's not getting away with it. Ryan's laughter died down as he surveyed the damage. "Man, this is rough. You can't just skim this out. Your pool's toast." I groaned. "Tell me something I don't know." And then, right on cue, the queen of chaos herself strutted in. Linda marched into my backyard like she owned it, arms folded, lips pursed in that smug little smirk she wore when she thought she'd won. She didn't even glance at the pool. Instead, she jabbed a manicured finger at me and said, "This is exactly why I've warned you about property upkeep." I blinked. "Excuse me." She sighed, all theatrical, like I was some disobedient kid. "A filthy pool is a health violation. I wouldn't be surprised if the HOA fines you for this." Ryan made a strangled noise. "Oh my God, she's flipping this on you." I took a deep breath, forcing a grin. "Linda, do you honestly think I trashed my own pool?" Her face stayed blank. "All I know is this neighborhood has standards, and if you can't meet them, maybe you don't belong here." She was good, spinning it like I was the problem. But she didn't know what I had up my sleeve. I leaned against the porch railing, tapping my fingers on the wood. "You're right, Linda. This is serious." She tilted her head, wary. "I'm glad you agree." I nodded. "That's why I handled it." Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I pulled out my phone, opened my security app, and hit play. The footage was flawless. Linda creeping into my yard at night, a bag of eggs in hand, tossing them into my pool one by one. Her gleeful smirk was unmistakable, topped off by a ridiculous little victory jig before she scurried off. Linda's smug mask shattered. Her face went white as the truth sank in. She'd been caught. Ryan whistled. "Oh, Linda, that's not very HOA approved." She floundered, mouth flapping like a fish. That's fake. You edited it." I smirked. "Sure, Linda. Let's see what the cops say." Her composure cracked. "You wouldn't dare." I tapped my screen again. "Reports already filed." Her jaw tightened. "This is a mistake." "Uh-huh," Ryan cut in. "The mistake being you thought no one would catch you acting like a total nutcase." Linda's eyes darted around, searching for an out. "Let's be reasonable, Mark," she said, stepping closer, voice low. "I have pull here. You don't want me as an enemy." I laughed. "Linda, you made yourself my enemy the second you trashed my pool." She stared at me, unreadable, then turned and stormed off without another word. Ryan slapped my shoulder, grinning. "Dude, this is better than a soap opera. What's next?" I watched the footage again, a slow grin spreading. "Oh, we're just getting started." Linda wasn't the type to slink away quietly. People like her dig in, convinced they can rewrite reality. But this time, she wasn't calling the shots. I had proof. I had the advantage, and I wasn't letting it go. Ryan paced my deck, still beaming. "Man, this is epic. You've got the neighborhood dictator on tape committing a crime. This is pure gold." I sank into a patio chair, replaying Linda's egg-tossing spree on my phone. "Yeah, it's great, but I've got to play this smart. She's not going to just roll over." Ryan flopped into the seat beside me. "So what's the move?" If it were me, I'd blast this video to every neighbor and watch the HOA explode. Tempting, but I had a better plan. First, I'm filing a police report. She's not wiggling out of this. Ryan whistled. "You're going all in." I nodded. If the tables were turned, she'd report me in a heartbeat. She once tried to find me for leaves on my driveway. Submitting the report online took minutes. Video attached, details filled, done. Step 1 complete. Now, the HOA was next. I knew Linda would try to twist this, play the victim, claim I'd faked the video. But she wasn't dealing with a pushover. The next morning, a firm knock woke me. I opened the door to a police officer, notepad in hand, patrol car parked at the curb. "Mark Davis?" he asked, glancing at me. "That's me. I'm Officer Hayes. Got a vandalism report from you. You filed a complaint." I nodded. "Yeah, my cameras caught my neighbor sneaking in and chucking rotten eggs into my pool." I sent the video. Hayes flipped through his notes. "Saw it this morning. Pretty solid evidence." Before I could reply, a sharp voice cut across the street. "Officer, I need to speak with you." Linda stomped over, her usual arrogance dialed back just a notch. Her face was flushed, anger or panic, I couldn't tell. Hayes raised an eyebrow. "And you are?" She forced a tight smile. "Linda Carter, HOA president." Hayes closed his notepad. "All right, MS. Carter, care to explain the footage?" Linda let out a brittle laugh. "That video's obviously manipulated." "I'd never do that." I crossed my arms. "Linda, it's HD with timestamps and your face. You're saying it's fake." She whirled on me, venom flashing. "You've always been a troublemaker, Mark. This is probably some scheme to frame me because you hate the HOA." Ryan, lurking inside, poked his head out and cackled. "She's really going with 'I've been framed'?" Classic. Hayes sighed, clearly over it. MS. Carter, the footage matches the timestamps and security logs. It's legit. Linda's eye twitched. This is an attack on my character." Hayes pulled out a citation pad. "You're being cited for trespassing and vandalism. Could face HOA fines too." Her jaw dropped. "You can't be serious. I'm the HOA president." Hayes didn't flinch. "Doesn't make you above the law." Ryan doubled over, laughing so hard he nearly collapsed. "Man, this is the best day ever." Linda looked ready to explode, but then her expression shifted, cold, calculating. I knew that look. She wasn't done. Snatching the citation, she leaned toward me, voice low. "This isn't over." I met her stare. "Maybe you should start house hunting outside this neighborhood." Her teeth gritted so hard I thought they'd crack. Without a word, she spun and marched off. Ryan leaned against the doorframe, shaking his head. She's not going to let this go quietly. I watched her vanish into her house. I know, and I'm ready. That evening, an HOA email popped up. A meeting was set for the next night to discuss community concerns and recent events. Linda was gearing up for a counterattack. I didn't care. She'd already lost. She just didn't see it yet. The meeting took place in the community clubhouse, a space meant to feel cozy, but instead felt like a battleground for petty disputes. I got there early, spotting Linda up front, whispering to board members, her face a mix of fake victimhood and barely contained rage. She saw me and gave a thin, panicked smile. The room filled fast. Neighbors who usually skipped these things showed up, buzzing with curiosity. Linda's reign of terror was infamous, but no one had ever pinned her like this. The air crackled with anticipation. "Mr. Thompson, an older board member fed up with Linda's antics, called the meeting to order. "We've got some urgent issues tonight," he said, adjusting his glasses. "First, a vandalism complaint on private property." Linda jumped up. "Yes, I'd like to address that," she said, voice dripping with rehearsed confidence. She faced the room, sighing dramatically. "I've served this community for years, keeping our standards high. Now I'm being targeted with false claims and fake footage to ruin my reputation." A few people squirmed, others looked bored. No one bought it. I leaned back, letting her bury herself. "This is an attempt to undermine me because I enforce the rules fairly," she went on, voice rising. "I won't be intimidated by those who ignore our guidelines." Ryan whispered, "She's full-on poor me mode." "Predictable." I smirked. "Just wait." "Mr." Thompson peered over his glasses. "Mr. Davis, you submitted footage. Want to share it?" I stood. "Gladly." Linda tensed. I hooked my phone to the projector, and the video rolled. Clear as day, there was Linda sneaking into my yard, hurling eggs into my pool with a wicked grin, capped by her goofy victory dance. The room erupted, gasps, whispers, a few laughs. An older lady muttered, "Oh, for Pete's sake, Linda." Linda's face turned beet red. This is out of context." Ryan nearly fell over laughing. "Mr." Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Out of context? You're throwing eggs into his pool." Linda's fists balled up. "This is character assassination. Mark's had it out for me since day one. He probably doctored this." I sighed. "Linda, it's cloud-stored, time-stamped footage. Not a cheap edit." Mrs. Jenkins, another board member who'd been side-eyeing Linda all night, spoke up. "Let's be real, Linda. This is damning. It's disturbing the HOA president would do this." Linda's jaw tightened. "I was inspecting his property." Ryan choked. "With rotten eggs?" Linda glared. "I was testing the water quality." The room exploded in laughter. Even Mr. Thompson cracked a smile. He straightened up. "Ms. Carter, you're removed as HOA president effective immediately. You'll also face fines for trespassing and damage. Legal issues are your own problem." Linda looked like she'd bitten into a sour fruit, mouth flapping for an excuse that wouldn't come. The room went quiet. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. Someone clapped. Then another. Soon, the place roared with applause. Ryan grinned. "We just made history." I exhaled, tension melting away. It was done. A week later, a for sale sign sprouted in Linda's yard. Embarrassment or exile, I didn't care. She was gone. A few days after, Ryan and I lounged by my freshly cleaned pool, beers in hand. The rotten egg stench was a memory, replaced by the smoky aroma of a neighbor's grill. Ryan took a swig. "Thought this place would be a nightmare when you moved in. But this? Worth it." I laughed. "Yeah, pretty solid payoff." He raised his bottle. "To Linda, may she find another HOA to torment." I clinked mine against his. "And may they have cameras too."